Dr. Tharoor, that the Congress cannot focus its narrative or debate only on the Adani issue. That you're going to have to localize your campaign. In states like Karnataka, if the Congress wants to get the traction, you can only get it if you localize a campaign, not by focusing on Gautam Adani. You'll have to connect to people's issues on the ground, which hasn't happened.
See, Rajdeep, I preface this by saying I'm not the party strategist, but common sense tells me that we can't contest elections on any one issue. We have to have multiple issues. I will certainly continue to raise the questions that Rahul Gandhi has been raising. I will also raise Rahul Gandhi's own situation and the undemocratic behavior of the government. But I will also raise unemployment, inflation, the extraordinarily poor governance, say, in Karnataka, where I'm hoping to appear next week. There's going to be questions and issues we will all have to raise across the board. In state assembly elections, there'll be a greater emphasis on local issues. When we come to 24, there'll have to be national issues. But there's got to be a palette of issues. No party, unless there is a major mahal, wins an election on one issue alone. This is not so far a one-issue election. It's a multiple-issue election. It's an are you better off than you used to be election, in my view. And frankly, after 10 years of BJP rule, if you're not better off, why are you voting for them again? There's absolutely no reason to.
You know, the reason is the Prime Minister keeps saying that the Congress is a party of entitled Dennis, out at the moment to protect one family, versus his government, which he says is rooted to, which is dedicated to rooting corruption and the welfare of the people. That has been the focus of the BJP. Do you believe that narrative will play out again in 2024, Kamdar versus Namdar? Is it all building again, once again, towards that?
I mean, this business about entitled Dennis is a bit amusing, coming from the beneficiary and architect of the biggest personality cult we have seen in this country since 1971. Have you ever seen, I mean, the way in which nowadays even BJP ministers can't answer questions in parliament without some ritual genuflection to their real leader? You could almost be in North Korea, Raji. I mean, it's just astonishing, the personality cult that has been built around our Prime Minister. And for that Prime Minister to talk about somebody else being a Shahzada or being a dynast is frankly laughable, because nobody in any other party has the kind of personality cult built behind them that we've seen around Mr. Narendra Modi. I mean, I can respect individuals for what they accomplish, but I respect them also when they're accountable to the general public, not when they build themselves out and up into being larger than life figures who somehow have to be deified by their own party members. And listen, I talk to BJP people all the time, in parliament and outside it. It's not that I'm giving you a line that's merely the Congress party echo chamber, as some people might suggest. I always believe in politics, you appeal to people, not just from your own support group, as it were, but from across the spectrum. And I speak to people of various political persuasions, including the uncommitted, the neutral. And I think these perceptions, of which the Prime Minister and his party are blissfully unaware, also exist. And I think they should realize that, you know, there are a lot of Indians who, if they're not very keen on dynasty, are not very keen on a sort of Maoist or North Korean style personality cult either.
Now, that's the second time you've used a North Korean analogy, almost Shahzada versus Raja. But the Prime Minister said yesterday, Dr. Tharoor, that this is a coalition of the corrupt that is emerging around Rahul Gandhi and the opposition. The corrupt are trying in a way to protect. The corrupt is what was suggested by Prime Minister Modi, and are using Rahul Gandhi's disqualification to gang up against the BJP, and the people, he said, of the country will not accept such a corrupt grouping coming up. How do you respond to that?
Unfortunately, this is one charge, I'm afraid, that the Prime Minister has used too often. Corruption seems to be a convenient label to apply only to the opposition. All the inquiries, ED and CBI and enforcement, I mean, income tax, revenue intelligence, all of that is always targeting the opposition. 95% of ED investigations in the last few years have been against opposition MPs or business people supporting the opposition. Whereas every person against whom an inquiry is in process suddenly gets washed clean when he joins the BJP. It's become a cynical exercise. I'm afraid corruption is no longer a credible thing for the BJP to accuse anybody of, because they whitewash the corrupt routinely. They take on corrupt people shamelessly. In fact, they corrupt some people in order to take them on by their so-called Operation Lotus. In many states, they have bought MLAs who won on other parties' tickets and brought them over. Honestly, if there's any case of corrupt shielding the corrupt, it has to be the BJP and not the opposition. The opposition doesn't have the resources to do the kind of corruption that the government has been doing. It really is, I'm sorry to say, a futile charge. I don't think the public buys it anymore. They've seen that, unfortunately, on these matters, everyone appears to be tarnished. And I would say that, we have also raised some very serious picture issues on what I would politely dub financial irregularity rather than corruption. And the Prime Minister has refrained from answering. So, I think flinging these pointless charges about is not going to get anyone anywhere. I think it's important now to focus very, very clearly on issues. Karnataka, the people have had 5 years of bad governance, and it's time for the reckoning, which is why they're running a desperately Hindutva campaign, resurrecting everything from hijab to love jihad to Tipu Sultan, and even apparently ascribing to two fictional characters the credit for killing Tipu Sultan in order to get some community votes in that process. I mean, this is the kind of politics the BJP is resorting to. I think the people of Karnataka will not be fooled again.